So if he's selling it.
We're
selling it.
Back on it. Let's get on it.
Let's in the world?
Top of the top.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Love y'all. Greatest show on earth.
All the mothers out there, hopefully you had an enjoyable Mother's Day. It was filled with love and joy and relaxation. Shout out to all of y'all. And Monday's here, so happy Monday. It is
happy Monday.
The 12th of May. It's an exciting day, man. A lot of stuff has happened over the weekend.
Happy No More Tariffs Day. Tariff Squad.
Suspended those things. We suspended those things. We'll get into all of that, man. How was your weekend, my brother?
Amazing. Shout out to all the mothers out there. I love y'all dearly. Shout out to my mom. Had a great time. So a great weekend. Relaxed, rejuvenated, refreshed, all the things.
Ready to get this thing going. Yeah. Rashad, how was yours, man?
It was good, for sure. Every day is Mother's Day.
For sure.
That's a fact.
So, but we have a special guest today.
Yeah.
We got Mayor Ras Baraka. Recently made national headlines news.
For sure.
Got arrested by ICE. So we don't want to waste any time because we're going to bring him on in a little bit. But also it's a big day because tariff, I'm sure you heard by now.
Yep.
A suspension of Chinese tariff, which made the stock market rally and made a lot of people happy across the board. So there's a lot to unpack here. And there's a few other things that didn't get like national news, but we talked about, we're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about a variety of different things. So don't want to waste too much time because we got a lot to unpack in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
First and foremost, get your tickets to InvestFest.
Please.
Yes.
InvestFest is around the corner.
Yes.
Man, it's going to be a good one for sure. So get your tickets to InvestFest. This year, probably the most important year so far. Artificial intelligence, crypto, stocks, real estate, so much stuff going on. So political landscape forever changing by the minute. So get your InvestFest, get your vendor booths.
Please.
Investfest.com. If you're in Red Panda, you have a code, check Telegram.
Yes.
And then we have Blackout at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. Tune in.
Most dangerous show on earth.
Live episode.
Perhaps.
I'm sure we're going to have topics that haven't even happened yet that we're going to have to talk about because there's a lot happening on a daily basis. So tune in to Blackout on Wednesday, live show, 10 o'clock.
Who knows what executive order could happen by then?
For sure.
For sure. And I will say this, Thursday, we have our friends at Lex and Drea.
Hey.
Shout out to them. Core Minds.
Shout out to the fam.
And they have a new travel show called Travel Queens on BT on their women's app. So that's a dope episode because we talked about traveling from a Black woman's perspective as far as like the top travel cities, what to stay away from, foods, all of that stuff. We also talked about the social content world, podcast, how you actually make money, the difference between streaming apps and just YouTube, stuff like that, working with a company like BET as opposed to being independent. Variety of different things that I think could be helpful and beneficial for people that's interested. But definitely the travel conversation is something that is good fun, and they're always good spirits. So 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
They're dope
on Thursday.
Yeah, we talked about the food. We talked about the cities. We talked about opposite sex when you travel, which is interesting, and how that gets handled. So definitely check that one out. And Ian, I'm gonna do the disclaimer.
Okay.
So we can get the thing going. You want to do any announcements before?
No, if you want to get rich from the market, go to ianinvest.com. I told you this would be over with in less than 62 days. It's less than 62 days. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. The greatest since Warren.
That post was crazy. By the way,
exclude nobody.
By the way, that post was crazy.
Thank you.
You know how this works, man. Disclaimer time. Do your own research. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important to do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you find on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Continue to do the research, share the research, stay low, keep firing, execute, man. Block out the noise, block out the distractions.
Yep.
Do the research. When it's great, share it. Give love to the people you got it from. That's how
Yep.
we build community. That's how we build our brokerage accounts. That's how we build wealth. Let's do this thing. Whoa, 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 whoa. Before we start, we got an important birthday in the Bilal family.
For sure. Happy birthday to my sister.
Hey,
Birthday's on Friday. So happy birthday to Tahira.
birthday.
I got you, TT. I got you.
yeah,
Happy
sure.
birthday to Tahira. Happy birthday to Inez as well.
Yeah.
More Taurus birthdays out here.
Happy belated birthday to Shelly. Red Panda family, I love you.
That's a
Dearly, I
fact.
appreciate
Show
you.
them some love. Show them all some love.
So we got a lot to talk about, but before we jump into the main topics, I'm warming up a little bit. Okay, so if you watched 60 Minutes yesterday, they talked about Anduril, company that Ian's been talking about a lot, as far as a defense company that uses artificial intelligence and technology, new age level of defense, using it to like blow up missiles and intercept rockets and stuff like that. So they interviewed the actual CEO of the company. I think he's like 32 years old.
Yeah.
So okay. Anduril. Want to talk about that?
What most people feel about Palantir, I feel about Anduril. There will be no desire for metaverse or the MetaQuest. The Oculus was his technology. I've told you before how him and Zuckerberg had a kerfuffle. He's since had a chip on his shoulder. And I think I'm not always big on defense companies, but if you put Elon and Zuckerberg into one, if they had a baby, that will be Lucky Palmer and Anduril. I think it's going to be one of the most important companies in the world. There is a real world need for it. Does General Dynamics and Northrop Grumman still have value? For sure, but he's putting a new spin on war. And I do think over time, him and Palantir are going to have a very great close working relationship, how Google and Apple had their relationship in the initial smartphone era. This new smart war era, they're going to be the two players in it that are most dominant. Bright kid, not kid, I mean, he's 32 years old, but he's like a bright entrepreneur. And I think he's innovating in some ways in a space that is going to be needed for the next 20 or 30 years. And also, too, with BRICS heating up, and, you know, I know we got a little 90-day pause, but if things get more heated, we need technology to be able to win this potential war so we don't go to third world country status. So my pick for when they go public in my top three is Anduril and OpenAI as the two most important IPOs of this decade. And he's going to be probably one of our next tycoons in the market.
Definitely sounds like a tycoon. It felt a little Elon-esque when I was watching the 60
For
Minutes.
sure.
But it's interesting when we think about what market they're in. And I think you nailed it by saying Palantir. They're in this AI analytics market.
Yep.
And Palantir, obviously the leader. Anduril is probably in there. And I think Raytheon would probably be my other if I had to pick three from a government contracting side. But it's interesting when you listen to the functionality of the business and what they're planning to do and what they're already doing. It feels, I understand when people talk about AI, it feels scary. But when you have the technology that they're developing, you want that on your side. Like that becomes the biggest type of war chest. Like war looks a lot different. And so when we think about how this market's going to look in a few years, I think Bloomberg put out a report. When you look at the valuation for a company like Palantir, which is at $280 billion.
Yeah.
This AI analytics market has the potential to be a $1.4 trillion market. And we're talking about 3 or 4 companies that are going to be leading that. So there's so much room for growth, which is why you see these high valuations for Palantir. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But you're right. When I saw the report, I was like, yo, Ian's spot on with this, because if that's the addressable market that has that much potential and these are the leaders, we in for something.
And I don't think he's framed it right, but what they're doing is saving soldiers' lives. So if I can send the drones out and have the AI risk itself and not human lives, if they find a way to put an American spin on that when you don't have much American exceptionalism, they're going to be a powerhouse. They are going to be a powerhouse.
You much rather lose machinery than people.
For sure.
And if something can, I mean, we saw that when we had the bomb sniffing robots. And I was like, oh, that technology is incredible. Well, now you have technology that can detect a missile, go up, shoot the missile down, so it completely harms no one. That's just a different level. And I mean, that war looks different. War looks
Yeah.
different.
Okay. So Palantir.
Yeah.
What about Palantir, which is now creeping back up? It's not at its all-time high,
Mhm.
but you know, you
It's
look
close.
at Palantir 200 and around 18, hovering around 220.
Mhm.
So
No. 118.
118.
118.
Yeah.
Yeah, all-time high is 125.
Close to 120, which is his all-time high.
Mhm.
So is Palantir the most, you know, close? So you like Anduril, but it's not on the stock market.
No, it's not in the market. Yeah.
Being that Palantir is on the stock market, if somebody's interested in just this AI defense sector, is this the only option that they really have as far as putting their money in the Palantir?
Only great option. I mean, you have other companies that have been legacy companies, but even though my moral leaning isn't favorable towards them because they may target us eventually, you can't deny the power of the stock, like, or the company.
Mhm.
And if it was no room, if it was not for Palantir, Anduril may not turn out to be the blockbuster that is going to be in a few years. Like, they definitely laid the pavement and groundwork for them to have space. I mean, they should break their all-time high pretty soon. I can even see probably by end of the year them being at like 156 or 160.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a great. And if you look even a few months ago, I mean, it's down at $66. It's at 118 now. So you're talking about doubling your investment in a relatively short period of time. You can't deny the return, especially when there aren't a lot of American tech companies that are priced, that are affordable enough. Yeah, you can't deny Palantir's power.
Yeah. Palantir had an interesting week when they reported. It was like one of those things when we watch Tesla and like that doesn't make sense. And you watch Palantir and you read the results and you listen to the earnings call and you're like, well, why is it falling back? Why did it drop back down and now it's sitting in that 118? I'm with you. I think it goes past its all-time high 120.
Yeah.
I know a lot of price targets got raised to 140. I see it sitting in that 135 to 140 range before the 3 years out. But listen to the numbers, right? The government revenue growth increased by 45% in the first quarter.
Yep.
The commercial sales spiked by 71%. Year over year, for the first quarter, they were up 8%. And they raised their guidance from 3.75 billion to 4 billion. All these numbers would tell you that this is a company that has extreme growth and is still growing, yet it pulled back to like around 105 earlier when it reported. And so you got to peel back the layers. Why is it doing that? And so you look at it. Yeah, there was some decline in international business. People are wondering, is this growth substantial? Can it go on like this for another 12 to 18 months?
Yeah.
All signs point to yes, right? When we talk about government contracting, yes, the valuation is really high. I think it's trading 500 times on its PE ratio, which is crazy. But what it tells you is that people believe in the growth of this company,
Of the company. Yeah.
right? And they believe in the CEO and they believe in what Palantir is bringing to the market. Like I said, there are 3 or 4. I probably put C3 AI,
Yep.
Raytheon, like you said, Anduril and Palantir in that space. But those are the four like horsemen in that
For sure in that
at
space.
this point. And then those 3 that we mentioned earlier will probably be. But yeah, I see them growing. When it fell back, I'm like, all right, this is a good point. This is actually
sure.
a good point for people to grab it. I like it long term. I like it this year as well.
And I know some people may ask why do I like Anduril but not Palantir morally. I get it. It may be splitting hairs, but also too, I'm a fan of Lucky, and given what's happened to him and how some of his tech has been stolen, I love how he's rebounded into a space that cannot be taken from him again. So just a personal fan of him and his comeback story when he was pretty much left for dead, like once he left Meta.
Okay. All right. Hit the like button and share. We're going to be talking about the tariffs very shortly, but there's still a few more things that we got to cover. Let's talk about CrowdStrike. So it's also been said that we are in the golden age of protection when it comes to not just data, but so much stuff, AI protection, data protection. You know, this is also on 60 Minutes yesterday. They talked about how every single person in America's social security number is on the dark web and you can buy it for as little as $2. every single person in America.
Yep.
So when you're talking about, protecting information, right? And as AI gets smarter, obviously it's going to be even easier to break into different things and to crack codes and to, so this is important industry.
Yeah.
And so CrowdStrike, you had that low moment when it had a breach, and that was about
That was
almost 10 months ago.
Yeah, it was last summer. Alleged. Delta said it wasn't. It was
dropped as low as $200, but now it's at $424, almost at its all-time high of $455.
It's a great time to buy.
So what about the industry as a whole and CrowdStrike specifically?
CrowdStrike is a power player for sure. I do want to hear, in light of AI growing, how they're going to defend some of those attacks. I don't know if they've announced that plan yet, but I see CrowdStrike going to like 498 by the end of the year. And in lieu of, they don't have a bunch of players in that space that does cybersecurity incredibly well. Bless you. That time last year when I had that dip, it was a great time to buy. I know, Troy, you've been a big advocate for it, and Rashad, you have as well. It's a great company. Like you said, there's so much data that is being scraped and sold on the dark web that you do need protection, and given how many data points are available online. So they're here to stay. Are they a top 10 company? No, but are they top in their space? Absolutely. So yeah, 498.60 is where I have them going by end of the year.
Yeah, I've loved them I love the company's growth potential. I shouldn't say I love them. For about 2.5 years now, we've been talking about CrowdStrike, especially in the cybersecurity space. Gave you the top 4 inside of it. We had CrowdStrike, we had Palo Alto, we had Zscaler, we had Fortinet inside that group. But ultimately, we said who's going to be the leader in that space, and it was CrowdStrike. What Shadi said earlier was perfect, right? Like, there are catalyst events that are going to happen to companies throughout the year, whether it's an earnings report, whether it's news. Last summer, again, if you were in Atlanta or you were trying to fly on during the time when they had that breach, you saw that stock pull back, right? And it got down under the 200s, and I'm like, oh, this is a great spot. Right at that moment, all right, we're getting close to 300. So 300 became my baseline because I watched it pull back under 40%. Like I told y'all, every time I see a catalyst event that pulls back negative, I'm looking for opportunity. And so we sat in that, still in it, the 300 call for June 26th. And so we're watching the growth now. Every time more technology is invented and created, they are going to have to create companies, and strong companies are going to have to protect that.
For sure.
Because it's the only way that makes these things functional to a certain extent. And so, yeah, they're the leaders in the space. They continue to be the leaders in the space. I like them here. I'll probably grab some more if we see another pullback in the next couple of months. But yeah, this is going in the long-term portfolio. This might be one of those ones where we turn the option call into
the shares,
into actual shares. We might exercise it since we're so far out.
Yeah, if it gets to like 382, 383, that'd be definitely a good price to buy in.
Yeah,
and also sometimes one of those companies, when they go through disaster like that, you either become stronger or weaker as a result. I think they've done a good enough job of stabilizing the company and then figuring out what things they need to do so it doesn't happen again. So long term is definitely a buy.
Yeah, we were in here at like a 263, and so I mean, here at 423 is incredible, but we still got till June of next year to see how this thing climbs.
Yeah, you should definitely be in that 500, 525 club.
Yeah,
drinks on you.
Yeah, but that'll be the thing. Sometimes when you're in a call and it surpasses the strike, right? Then you start making new entries, right? Like if NVIDIA was a perfect one, we watched it go to 200. All right, well, we're going to pass 400. But we keep adding to the positions because now we're just doubling down on the investment. Even if it doesn't hit the new strike that we put in, it's still 100%, 200%, sometimes 400% the original one. Yeah. And so we're just kind of layering in good companies, though. You don't want to do that with
you can't do that with a bottom tier
companies, leaders in their space, and definitely Crowd is one of those.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this tariffs conversation. So last night, early this morning, they announced that 90-day pause on China tariffs. That was a big one. I mean, they had tariffs across the whole world, but they dropped, at least had 90-day pause for most countries, but China was the one that everybody was waiting on to see what was going to happen. Obviously, it's the biggest economy in the world. And it was raised, the tariffs were raised to 145%, and it was lowered to 10%. So for 90 days, with an additional 20% for any products related to fentanyl. So most products are 20 or 10%. If it's a fentanyl related product, which is like a lab, anything that has something to do with chemicals, labs, things of that nature, then it's an additional 20%, which will bring the tariffs to 30%. But for most products, it's a 10% rate across the board for at least a 90-day period. And then
Yeah.
after 90 days, we'll see what happens after that. So where we started with this before anything, even during the Biden administration, was around 3%.
Yeah.
So effectively, we went up 7%, which is not bad because 7%, it might sound like a little bit, but it adds up. And you're talking about billions of dollars, so possibly trillions of dollars. So 7% is not a number to just sneeze at for
Mhm.
sure. But it's a big difference from 145%. So someone would say, okay, well, it was done intentionally to raise the price, to actually lower the price. Now, I just think that it could have possibly done in a could have been done in a better manner, because
Absolutely.
even just looking at stocks, we're still not at the point where we were. But there's a lot of other things that got affected, and there's real life businesses. I was talking to a business owner the other day who actually sells merchandise, and they had their products sitting for a month in China because they couldn't bring it over to America because the 145% tariffs was
Yeah.
too much. So just the delay in 30 days could really hurt somebody's
Mhm.
business as far as shipping and not having product on the store. So there's been a lot of people it's been a lot of real pain that's already been done within a 4-week time frame. Where I think that if potentially he would have just said 10% from the beginning,
It would
he
have been
might have been able
better.
just to push that through, because it is already at 3%. So if you just say, okay, look, I have a new policy in place and we're going to raise our tariff 7%. And now instead of 3%, it's going to be 10%. I don't think that would have been something that would have been too difficult to get through. But I just feel like you didn't have to go about it as far as putting tariffs on the whole world and then erasing the tariffs on the whole world
Yeah.
and then raising tariffs on China from 50 to 80 to 125 to 145 back down to 10. That's
That's a hell of a
140,
drop.
145 to 10 is almost a 97% decrease. So that's a tremendous drop in tariffs, right? Which also, even negotiating later on, like, how do you even get taken seriously when within a month you lowered at 97%? But I still think that it's a good thing that they did as far as the administration, because it's not helpful for the American economy or the Chinese economy
At all.
to have a trade war going on. So stocks rally on news of this. Obviously, everybody's been happy about the news, because everybody was waiting for some level of compromise on this deal. But what does this mean for the broader economy and the broader stock market going forward?
I think you broke it down perfectly. To have a penalty of 145%, then go to 10, it goes to show that the plan was not thought out well enough. And I get standing from, like, being a parent. If I tell my son, you can't play PlayStation for 2 years, and then in 3 days, I'm like, hey, bring all your friends over and have a Fortnite party, he's not going to take me serious. And I think while we're fighting for America to keep its edge with BRICS closing that gap, I think we're a laughing stock right now, to be very honest. If you're going to play hardball and you step down in 1 month, while it's great for the market, I don't know how much he's going to need to do to recover what was lost.
And I'll say this, I do think, because I don't want to be fair here, and I know we've been tremendously hard on Trump and his administration, but he's doing some things that I think are helpful. It's just hard to champion him too much, because he does something positive and then he says, like, white people in South Africa are having a genocide and you want to bring
Yeah.
refugees. Like, it's very
There's
difficult
one
because
step forward and 3 back.
yeah, he's a very erratic with his behavior. He does very questionable things, but he's done some good things for sure. And I feel like there was a need to tighten up trade deals
For
for
sure.
sure. because China
especially if you're losing.
is a need for it. So he's not wrong in his thought process of getting more for America. But like I said, I just feel like it was an unnecessary whiplash that we still haven't fully recovered yet. We don't know the long-term effects of it. And just to do this and to abort mission so quickly, you can't really say it's a win. Because if the goal is to bring manufacturing jobs back to America, 10% is not going to do that.
At all.
Right? Like if it's 10%, if that's the number that we're going to stay at, that's not drastically bringing all of these manufacturing jobs back to America, which we knew that was a scam anyway.
Sham anyway.
Right.
But that's not a win for America, in my opinion. It's more money that's brought in. That's positive for sure. But if it's like a blockbuster, okay, we broke China and we created a new global infrastructure with trade. How? You lowered, you cut everybody's tariffs across the board to basically nothing. The biggest three that makes the most difference in our trading partners is Mexico, China, and Canada. You cut Mexico and China. I mean, you cut Mexico and Canada early to relatively nothing. Now you cut China to relatively nothing. So where's the win?
You don't get thrown out of office.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a consensus, even when we had people come on, there was a consensus of we agree what he's trying to do, how he's doing it.
The execution is poor.
Most people didn't agree with it. I think there's some merit to what you're saying, Ian, inside of the laughingstock piece, because even though they are suspended, there's still this like 90-day thing. Like we've been watching this 90-day, 75-day thing go on since January when it was TikTok, and then it gets moved back, and it's another 90. So like, what happens at the end of this 90 days, right? Like we can keep doing this, but again, and seeing the market rally like it did today, yes, there's plenty of optimism, but there's still a slight bit of uncertainty, right? Because if you met in Geneva for 3 straight days and you ironed out a deal, why is it a 90-day deal?
Why is it only good for 3 months? Yep.
Why? So when we get into the summer months and it's like, all right, they did something that we didn't like, or they did something, vice versa, we can renege on it, or we can go back to the 145. It's just like this level of uncertainty is really unnecessary. If you're going to come together for a deal, then make the deal. Right? Like now we have to watch the clock and say, all right, well, what happens now? What happens with semis directly, right? Does that get suspended as well? Like that tariff that you were going to specifically put on that sector? I know he just signed in the farmer legislation. What does that look like, right? Like there's all these executive orders that get these deadlines, and then when the deadline comes, it's like, oh, well, maybe we'll extend it again, which leaves more uncertainty, which means like in business, what are we really doing?
Well, I think to his credit, it's going to be extremely difficult to work out a comprehensive deal in 3 days. So you stop the bleeding because there's obviously pain on both sides.
But I don't think that, just to rebut what you're saying, I don't even think it was just these 3 days. I think that these negotiations have been going on.
Well, they said it hasn't. So we can only go on what they tell us.
Yeah.
So they said that this is the first time that they actually had face-to-face negotiations. That's what they said. That's what both countries said.
But that's what, so to that, he was saying that, remember 3 weeks ago, they were saying we're negotiating with China, and China said, no, we never spoke to them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't, so assuming that they just started negotiating, real negotiations this week, you can't negotiate a deal in 3 days. That's hard. To negotiate a comprehensive deal that is going to be years in 3 days. So I think that they did the right thing as far as a 90-day pause, because it was better to do this than to negotiate for 3 months and just have this turmoil last for 3 months. So I don't think that that's an irresponsible thing that he did as far as a 90-day situation. We'll see what happens after the 90 days, but at least they have 3 months to have comprehensive, real negotiations to kind of figure out what the final deal, what's important is what the final deal looks like. If the final deal looks like then they kick the can down the road and they cause a lot of unnecessary pain for, we'll see if that 7% over the course of time was worth it. Maybe it is. Maybe 7% is going to be worth all of the pain that was caused in the last month. I don't know. Only time will tell. But I do feel that they did the right thing because they made a mistake. The biggest thing into life is to correct your mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
For sure.
They could have just dragged this dog down the road for months and just, I feel like, all right, they screwed up. They recognized that they screwed up, and they said, okay, let's think this thing through. Cooler heads will prevail. We'll see what happens in 90 days.
And if I'm a sitting president, I wouldn't want that R word lingering over my campaign and party either over a bad decision.
You think you think this eradicates it?
It's definitely gonna help. Definitely gonna get to fudge the numbers a little bit, just like they did in the last soiree.
I mean, even with the stock market, you don't want to have a negative stock market.
No,
Nobody wants to have that. Like, so it's, but it's still not where it was. Like I said, if you have $100 in your pocket, somebody takes the $100 from you and hides for 3 weeks and comes back with 70. Well, that's not a win.
you're still down.
You're still down $30, right? And you didn't have $100 for 2 weeks that you could actually use.
And opportunity cost. Yep.
So to start a war, to get back to where we started from, which is still not where we're at.
Misguided at best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
You got to think these things through.
Well, what companies are going to benefit the most? Every company is up on the stock market today.
Not Google.
Well, not Netflix either, but most companies are up. So a lot of the tech companies are up. A lot of people think that, Nvidia is going to benefit a lot from
For
this.
sure.
So we can start with Nvidia, but what companies are going to benefit the most?
The ones I've been telling y'all about. That's why I'm gonna toot my own horn. Lesson of the day: you have to pick companies, assets, and investments that are going to do well, regardless of what the macroeconomic environment are doing. So Microsoft, Nvidia, despite the route that they're having now, we can talk about the good thing that he could be doing with the pharma price cut. Eli Lilly will be okay. Anduril, when they go public, of course, all the Vanguard main suite of products. But I think who will have the most benefit, I don't know when they'll set it, but this open AI going public thing is coming a lot faster than I thought it would. I thought it wouldn't happen to 28, and I'm hearing some rumblings that they could go public next year. So Microsoft, Nvidia, Lilly, Apple, if you want to be conservative, and Visa. If Visa had I keep saying it, if they had an Elon that did not go off the rails, Visa would be top 3 for me. Be A-okay.
Visa is definitely in the portfolio.
For sure. Cooking.
Yeah, just cooking up. It's interesting you brought up the OpenAI situation. There's some talks that Microsoft and OpenAI are renegotiating. They're coming to the table in the next few weeks to potentially renegotiate. Now, what that means, who knows? But yeah, I think Microsoft for sure will be a winner. Obviously, Nvidia. I think Broadcom, and we've seen it over the past 6 months that has just performed just handsomely over the past 6 months, and definitely in the AI space. When people were looking at Nvidia and like, oh, it's overvalued, what will happen here? Some of these other companies, Broadcom being one, TSM another one for sure.
Yeah, TSM for sure.
Hand over fist about that. So the semis for sure are looking great, but even the ETFs inside the semis, right, to have even a little bit less exposure, and we spoke about a few of those a couple of weeks ago. I think they're all going to benefit from it.
Yeah. On an opposite note, not to belabor this point about Google, for the first time in 20 years, search queries were down because of ChatGPT. Just like when the knockout hasn't happened yet, but the first time Buster Douglas put hands on Mike, and it was like, whoo.
Well, we spoke about this. That's what I said. I said this. Me personally, I don't use Google. I use ChatGPT.
Facts. And people,
it's quicker.
they called us crazy.
It gives you, because it's going to search Google anyway, and it's going to search every other search engine possible. It gives you a more comprehensive answer in a short period of time. So yeah, I said that.
ChatGPT will be ChatGPT
is the
Google
new,
was to Ask Jeeves.
ChatGPT is the new Google.
Ask Jeeves. Ask Jeeves is crazy.
Yep.
Like, why would you? Why would you?
Brain.
Who goes to Google anymore? That's like last decade. Like everybody is going to use ChatGPT.
I didn't say it this time.
Yeah. Or maybe not. We'll see. But it's the first time ever. So obviously somebody has gotten into that space. ChatGPT, Anthropic, all these other ones.
Yeah.
XAI, which will be, coming at a short time. But
even on Twitter, Grok is pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie.
They all came to space, and then you get the lawsuit from the federal government where they don't want you to have a deal with Apple going forward. That doesn't help. because that's kind of your monopoly right there. If you can get inside of the phone that most people are using and be that search engine for them, then you've got a monopoly.
If Open AI ends up being a search engine for Apple, which they need,
their search business is over.
ChatGPT leads the race as far as these chatbots are concerned. AI, there's a bunch of them, but ChatGPT has become Band-Aid name recognition for the average everyday layman. That layman,
and it's a better product.
Yeah, right. they definitely. What are they doing? Over 100 million users a day? Some crazy number?
Some insane number that I've
never
heard.
They got the product for $200 a month now.
Yeah, you're getting to a premium.
Again, they have premium product, $200 a month. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Or you can pay somebody $70,000 a year and get a better result or a worse result.
Yeah.
Trade off.
Yeah, we're watching Google carefully.
And it's doing things that Google can't do.
Who is?
ChatGPT.
In terms of what?
Rendering real-time renderings for you and making flyers for you on the spot. Like you do that on your phone. You can say, okay, make a flyer for Market Mondays. Google, you go to google.com on your phone, it's not going to do that.
Yeah.
ChatGPT on your phone right now, you can do that right now on your phone.
Like expert level research.
And that was part of the issue we were saying a few weeks ago, and when Meta said that they were going to release their own app, right? So ChatGPT has a standalone app, but these other ones, they don't have a standalone app outside of Claude. I'm talking about Gemini. I'm talking about Meta AI. I mean, 2 days after we said that on Market Mondays, Meta and they're going to have the standalone app. And so when you think about in terms of that, they understand what's at stake. They understand the competition, but we'll see how it plays out, man. It's going to be interesting.
But it's also something to take into consideration as far as Microsoft their relationship is not great with OpenAI right now. And they're encouraging them to be a for-profit company, which that was through Elon. That was what he wanted to do as far as break up their nonprofit stake and things of that nature. So OpenAI is an interesting company within itself to see which direction they're going. If they stay under Microsoft's umbrella, if they have a lawsuit eventually with Microsoft, break that partnership up. Who knows?
Either way, they're going to have to pay that coin. Sorry. You're not going to do to Satya what you did to Elon. It's not going to happen. So whether they pay him in cash or considerations, cool. Microsoft is still going to benefit from being an investor in that platform.
Yeah,
for sure. But they should be for profit, and they should go public soon, next year probably, fall.
Yeah, they said that the board voted to keep it a nonprofit. We'll see how that goes over the next couple of months.
Yeah. We'll switch eventually.
What about Trump's new order for lower prescription drugs across the board? How will that impact healthcare stocks? Healthcare stock wasn't affected today, but long term. And if you're not 100% sure about this, he has he's going to sign an executive order to lower prescription drugs, right? Across the board. Mark Cuban had actually talked about this before. Once again, you got to give credit when credit is due.
For sure.
If executed correctly, then this could be helpful to a lot of people that have prescription drugs that they're taking, but it's not helpful to the companies that actually provide these drugs. So how's that going to play?
You got to give them credit. When I first saw this pop up, I'm like, it's clearly a remix of Cuban's idea, but it's an idea that the American public need as the economy is not doing as well as it could. I think the companies that have been holding on to legacy drugs and products and not innovating are going to get impacted, but I think it will cause a wave of innovation. I'm worried about Pfizer for sure. They've already been in a route for the last couple of years. I think Lilly will be okay. I think Novo will be okay. But most importantly, the people need price consideration, and there needs to be fair pricing. I mean, he made a great point. Like, why is the same drug in another country 80% cheaper? I'm like, I can't argue with that. Now, I think it's petty that he leveraged Cuban's idea, but if he's going to do it and is going to get pricing down for everybody in the country, I'm definitely with this.
Yeah, I think the second part to what you're saying is key, right? Why is it 80% cheaper and it's manufactured here?
Here, yes.
Right. Like, so how does that even make sense? So when I first heard the news, the first thing I thought was like, oh, a company like Lilly is gonna that's going to affect them long term, right?
Yeah.
The AstraZenecas of the world, that's going to affect them long term. Johnson and Johnson,
For
CVS,
sure.
which we were talking about, right? In terms of pharmacies, like that affects long term business. Now, I believe he signed it today. He signed the executive order today. He had Dr. Oz there with him, and they were talking about American pricing. And it, again, I'm not mad at the idea.
It's a brilliant idea, bro.
I'm
I'm
not
not
mad
gonna
at the
lie.
idea. Most people, and from what I've been reading, is that the reason we saw, pre-market that those healthcare stocks were down was because of the announcement. When the market opened, people were like, well, how is he going to get this through? Right? Like, this still has to go through litigation. There'll be plenty
There's
of
gonna be pressure from lobbying.
a lot of lobbyists are going to be involved. You're going to have to put this in front of the court. What will happen? And so we saw like a slight tick in some of the healthcare stocks. But I like the idea. Makes a lot of sense when you look at how much drugs cost here, right?
Yes.
Opposed to other places when it's being manufactured here, doesn't make sense. But healthcare is a big beast, man. It's a big beast, and it's a huge, huge industry. So we'll see how this plays out. Yeah.
Democrats, I want to let you know now, if he gets this prescription idea off and DeSantis get off that idea in Florida for no property taxes, wrap up the next election too. It's over with.
That I'm not mad at those ideas.
What? Two great ideas back to back.
Yeah, the property tax thing, I don't think it's gonna happen. But it's
Yeah.
a good
It's a
talking
good
point.
idea.
It's a good thing to champion because you know that you really have no chance of actually making it happen. But why not champion it? And nobody's gonna be against not paying property taxes. That's who would be against that?
No one.
Just say it. We're gonna just throw it out there. Let's see.
But once again, give Trump credit because
You gotta give him credit for this.
He's doing some things that I think are beneficial for sure. His foreign policy, we'll talk about that on Wednesday. It's just, he once again, it's just some things I just can't champion. But
that's fair.
There's a lot of things that Joe Biden did that I didn't like either.
Fair.
Facts.
That's
y'all forget to clip that up and put that in the comments.
Yeah.
Sure.
It makes no sense. When you think about the drug prices, it makes no sense.
Merc, you're done. I'm sorry. Merc been falling for 9 months straight. If this goes through, it's gonna be
Amgen,
tough.
Bristol Myers, all these companies.
But HIMS, to everyone who kept bringing that up, it may benefit because you need a portal to, like an affordable prescription portal. They may see some upside and benefit from that.
What about Amazon purchasing $84 million in AMD?
Listen, as soon as I said somebody needs to buy AMD, I didn't know it was going to be in this fashion, but well played by Amazon.
But so that's one of these things when that's the headline, right? But
I know
it's not technically what happened.
Yeah.
So Amazon's the acquisition of the $84 million stake in AMD wasn't a direct investment. It happened because AMD's acquisition of ZT Group International, which is a server manufacturer. So Amazon held equity stake in ZT Group, and then they received over 820,000 AMD shares as a part of a buyout, a stock buyout. So technically they didn't buy it, but because they had ownership in the company, they
still have the equity in the asset though, which I'm not mad at. And Amazon has been on a tear,
because it says a couple things. Number one, in terms of infrastructure, if we have a chip maker inside of our
wheelhouse,
we don't have to rely on outside people anymore. We don't have to go.
It's the beginning of a great relationship.
It's a positive start to a great relationship.
That's how the pharmacy thing started, the health side, and then they grew into the pharmacy space. They don't get enough credit because their profit margin is small, but they operate the way Buffett operates. They are looking to acquire like assets across the board. They shot up a lot today off of the news from Trump, but if their profit margin was a little bit wider, we would be having talks about like the greatest company of the last 10 to 15 years. The profit margins just thin, but even
talking about Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
Okay.
But them having them shares through this is going to bode well for them, and then I think eventually AMD will make a push up to the upside, but don't think that team isn't thinking about what they can do. Okay, historically, Amazon has had enough data to take a business over from someone else, allegedly, or improve it. You don't think they're sitting on 900,000 shares and not thinking about what they can do to improve AMD business while NVIDIA has been on the stair?
Yeah, it's the self-reliance play. Right? We saw Apple say, "Hey, we're not gonna use Intel anymore. We'll make our own chip."
Make our own chip. Yep.
Here comes the M1. Now here is AMD, right? Which is obviously we talked about where it stands inside the GPU space.
Yeah.
We know what GPUs mean for AI. Amazon said they're spending $100 billion on AI infrastructure. Well, some of that is going out to some of these hyperscalers, some of these manufacturers. If you got one in-house that you're working with directly, I
Yep.
like that. I like that. That says, okay, we're gonna start doing things our own way,
Yeah.
right? We have multiple umbrellas that we can add AI efficiency to.
Yeah.
That is a nice proposition.
That's well played.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about Coinbase's campaign for Bitcoin? And once again, if you're not familiar, we spoke about this last week.
Yeah.
They I first saw it on the NBA playoffs, but they have a commercial that they've been running Bitcoin showing how many Bitcoins will ever be created versus how much money the US Treasury has printed over the last decade. And it's just pretty much showing that the dollar decreases over the course of time and the scarcity model in Bitcoin. So I think this is interesting for a few different reasons. A, Coinbase is a crypto company, but
Yeah.
the commercial is not for crypto, it's for Bitcoin. It's not talking about XRP, Ethereum, Solana. It's not talking about
Yeah.
blockchain technology and how cryptocurrency is going to change the world. It's solely focused on Bitcoin, the scarcity of Bitcoin specifically. So to me, that shows that the idea of a euphoria where we have a million different cryptos being traded across the world, like how we have now with dollars, right? Where you have the euro and you have the pound and you have the yen and you have the American dollar. And depending on what you want to do, that was the idea of crypto originally. It was like, okay, you want a game, then you got Tron. Or if you want security, you have, I forgot the security coin, but there was a security coin. There was different coins for
USDC,
for different utilities. You don't really hear that conversation happening too much. The banking coin was XRP. Now, but
the banking coin, not Bitcoin.
Bitcoin now is the only thing that they're talking about as far as at least in that commercial. So that's interesting. But
brilliant too.
What's the idea of their marketing strategy?
There are two types of ads that I really like. One being educational content, and then another one being product demo. I think they did a great job of explaining to, let's say, maybe if you don't listen to Market Mondays, the value of Bitcoin, and also to cryptocurrency can be scary, but Bitcoin is a better version of an index fund. If you look at returns, it's outperformed. It's a beacon of safety. So if I'm a crypto platform, it would behoove me to not talk about other coins, but to talk about the one that is getting the highest return year over year and has like the greatest store of value and the one that most people know. For those of you that may have studied the history of ETFs and the history of indexes, it looks very similar to that. So if a person is on the fence about Coinbase per se, you can't at this point be on the fence about Bitcoin. You can just look at the numbers over a 10-year span, highest returning asset ever. Even when I'm talking to people, when I'm coming in and out of my building, 3 years ago, it was about Vanguard. Now all of them are, hey, what you think about Bitcoin at 80 or 90? Is it still a good, will it go to 200? And I'm seeing there's excitement there that has not been in the market for other products. So I think it's a brilliant move to focus on an asset that's returning the highest in a field to, if you're maybe 50 to 65, it may still be scary. And I'll say this to everyone who's making indexes and ETFs, you better figure out a plan how to out-return Bitcoin. Like I figured out mine with 2Tech2 index and with futures. But if I'm looking at a traditional, like no one wants to hear 8% return anymore. The minimum now needs to be 20. And that's because of the influence and impact that Bitcoin has had on the market. Yeah,
it's a growing asset. It's an attempt, and we saw it at the Super Bowl. The attempt to make it even more mainstream.
Yep.
I think the 7% of the world's population own some form of cryptocurrency. Whereas in the United States, I think end of this year, 28% of our population will have some form of cryptocurrency, most likely being Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so if you start to see numbers that are trending in that manner, you want a market to even get that percentage even higher. 28% is pretty good when you think about 5 years ago. It didn't look anything like that. And so how do they get that to 40%, which brings more business? You got to have Bitcoin as the market or the Trojan horse, because that's the one that's making people money, right? When people think of the space, they think of Bitcoin. And so the marketing is great for it, because there's a growing audience, and a younger population, more and more so, are investing in alternative assets like Bitcoin. And so you want to get it to them. You want to get it to them.
I mean, and I even think it's unfair to call it an alternative asset. If I know I'm gonna sound like Chris or financial conspirator, but if it's keeping its value longer and giving a higher return, like the value of the dollar dying is the issue. Even like I went back and looked. I was talking to my parents over the weekend. There was like, when they were born, the cost of raising a kid from 0 to 18 was $50,000. We may be looking at $500,000 $1 million babies. That's insane.
Yeah.
While the quality of some of these products have gone down tremendously. So Coinbase hasn't moved a bunch because of it, but I do think the brand behind it is amazing. Even though Ethereum started to move a little bit last week as well. Finally, they crept up out of the dead. But Bitcoin definitely is the way to go.
Okay, so Berkshire Hathaway. Well, let's talk about Warren Buffett. Also said that stocks is a better investment over the course of time than real estate. At least for him, he said it's easier.
Yeah.
To understand. And Warren Buffett, I mean, only thing we can go by is public record. And public record says that he owns one house, the house in Omaha, Nebraska. He had a vacation property in Laguna Beach, which he sold. He bought the property for $175,000 and sold it for like $7 million years ago. But he only, on paper, he says he owns one home.
He did your play.
Allegedly.
Alleged. What are we doing, man?
But
farmland. Just posted.
Sure. Farmland, owns 400 acres of farmland, stuff like that. But long story short, he said that he understands stocks better. It's easier. It's a lot easier. He said Charlie liked real estate a lot more than he liked real estate. So what do you think about Warren Buffett pretty much saying that he prefers stocks over real estate? Like I said, I mean, it would assume, if you look at his personal life, that's consistent with what he's actually saying.
There's two sets of information. I've always said this: the information that you give to the public to give the right answer, or answer that's easy to understand, and then it's the information when you talk to your peers or you're in a mastermind setting. Homework assignment: go Google how many units or doors does Berkshire Hathaway own. That's the other trick. Like, I don't personally own the thing, but I may have it in a trust, or a trust of a ally or family member. Now, our stocks, like, do they have more data points, easier buy-in, easier exit liquidity, easier to research? Hands down. But the answer is always, and this is what I love about Amazon and that example we talked about, the answer is all. It's not one or another. You want to own stocks, real estate, businesses, crypto, water, air rights. You want to own everything. The day of, I'm just going to be a linear investor in one thing, that's over with, because then you're not going to see the missed opportunity in something that is huge elsewhere. And BlackRock doesn't do that. BlackRock has ETFs, and then Bitcoin got popular. They said, let me get that too. So is it easier to invest in? For sure. Are the returns higher? I know some of y'all want to do a stock versus real estate debate. I'm not going to do it. I love y'all because y'all my friends and I want to obliterate y'all. But the answer to me is always to invest in both, or all. Y'all like my politically correct answer?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah,
and if you come to InvestFest, you will be able to hear how to invest in real estate, crypto, stocks, trade, and they haven't announced the lineup yet, but there may be some other assets out there that you guys can invest in.
That's a
invest
fact.
in yourself and go to InvestFest.
Invest in yourself. That's the biggest investment you'll ever make.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you think that Berkshire Hathaway will jump into Bitcoin now that he retired?
Hello. Now I would think, okay, if I'm replacing Buffett, which it's a lesson in certain shoes you shouldn't fill, but how do you turn down that job? I think at some point he has to at least look if he wants to get a incredible return. No matter what he does, he'll never be Warren. But what can you do to have an impact as the person who succeeded Warren? An alternative asset with a high return. Just imagine if they would have invested when it was at 20,000. So if I were him, I would definitely be looking at an asset class to invest in that can give me a higher return over a longer period of time for sure. And Bitcoin looks like the best investment vehicle for them to do so.
Yeah, so they're not invested in Bitcoin, but they're like Bitcoin adjacent.
Yep.
Yeah, so they invested in New Holdings, which is a Brazilian digital bank that offers cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And then they hold shares in Jefferies Financial Group, which has exposure to Bitcoin's ETFs, like BlackRock that you just mentioned before.
Yep.
So they're adjacent. But Greg Abel he's a successor based on everything that he's done in his career thus far. He's kind of leaned toward the side of being what we spoke about last week, a very cautious investment. So that's been his approach. Can that change? We'll see. I mean, he's not in that frame of 90 years old. I'm sticking to my plan, and this was, or he could, be like, I've learned from this guy, and I'm going to continue his legacy down the approach of conservative investment because we've seen it pay off to the treasure chest of $347 billion. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
1% exposure for them and that fund over a 5 or 6 year period could get them a 700-800% return. Hypothetically, if they get, if nothing else, I know Warren has done a great job of acting like he doesn't know how to trade. His price, and like if you just go homework assignment, go map out like his top 10 investments and see when he got in. They're usually close to the bottom of the market. So if anything, he's taught him how to do price discovery really well. If they get in Bitcoin at the right price, like even if, let's say, if it fell to 61,000 or 62,000, which I don't think it will, but if it did, how do you argue to not buy it at that price?
You gotta have some exposure at that price.
You gotta have some exposure. You gotta have some exposure at any price. We said if Bitcoin goes into 80,000, you gotta like it. If it's in 70,000, you gotta like it. Like if you believe in Bitcoin, you have to have exposure at any price.
Yeah,
that's the part is the belief, right? If Warren's stance has been that it's rat poison,
then you don't gotta have exposure on any price.
Then
it's either you gotta have exposure. You gotta have exposure at any price, or you don't have to have exposure at any price. Because if you don't believe in it, if it's at $10,000, you're not gonna buy it.
And that's what I'm saying, right? It's more than just the price; it's the actual belief, right? If the CEO is saying, "Yo, it's rat poison," we're not touching it.
Well, Jamie Dimon said that it was a scam also.
And they were buying that shit like crazy in England.
And also, he's still the CEO. There hasn't been a successor. He's passing it down. So let's see what the successor does. It's his stance, rat poison. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and even if you're not pro Bitcoin, you can't not see that the value of the dollar is dying. It's a pair trade. You would have to be long Bitcoin versus short the dollar.
That's a fact. Well,
like it's just math.
We will see. We will monitor the situation. But yeah, people tell you things all the time that's not actually true.
Yes. Hello.
But switching gears, we have a guest. Let's bring our guest up if we can. How's it going?
Good, man. How you guys doing, bro?
Good, my brother. How good to see you,
Mr. May. How you feeling?
I'm all right, man.
So, Mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, you had quite the week.
Yeah.
We should start by saying, how was your weekend?
I'm part of the formerly incarcerated.
Oh man,
a returning citizen. Okay,
returning citizen. There it is.
A returning citizen. I'm glad to see you back in the office. So, first and foremost, thank you for joining us, Mayor of Newark, New Jersey.
Yes,
and you are also running for governor of New Jersey. So a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
So I want to talk about your economic policies and a variety of other things, but I mean, we have to address the obvious question. So if people are not familiar, you was arrested, I think Friday,
Yeah.
from you were protesting at an ICE facility, and it made national news. You got arrested, and then that went viral on social media.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that experience as far as for people that might not be a lot of people have just seen clips on social media. They don't know exactly what you were protesting. How did it lead to that point? All of the things.
Well, I was actually not protesting when I was down there that time. The Geo Group is a private owned prison firm that ICE contracted or Homeland Security contracted to hold prisoners. They don't have a certificate of occupancy that's updated according to us. We were disputing that in court. They started putting detainees in there anyway. So we've been going down there every morning trying to get entry, serving them papers because we're in court and we just want to prove to the judge that they have denied us entry over and over and over again. So we've been doing that every morning. There's protests going on outside there every single day, almost every day with local activists. Sometimes I speak with them, sometimes I don't. I went back down there at 1:30 that evening because the congresspeople were there and they wanted to do a press conference. They wanted me to be in the press conference, so I went. We were in there for about an hour and a half, man, until Homeland Security's boss, the special agent in charge, came down there. Ricky Patel, I think his name is. He came and escalated the situation. We was all there for an hour. ICE agents, everybody was there. Nobody said nothing. We was just in the same space. He came down there and came straight to me, trying to arrest me. I think he got orders to do that. I'd be like the police director here going downtown Newark arresting somebody for shoplifting or something, He probably never made an arrest in like years. He came there to target me, make me get off the property. I did. And he came outside of the property after he got a phone call and with about 15 ICE agents, and they arrested me anyway. After I left, they arrested me on the street out there. And it was a big scuffle, obviously. People trying to stop them from arresting me, but they did it. And they did the whole thing. I went to a cell. They cuffed me. They kept me in cuffs. They took my picture, fingerprinted me, interrogated me the whole nine. I stayed in about 5 hours.
So they arrested you because they allegedly said that you were trespassing, meaning that was private property, which is interesting because about 4 years ago, New Jersey passed a landmark law that banned prisons from making deals with United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, right?
Right.
But in February of this year, the Geo Group, which you said, they're known for privatizing prisons and jails. They signed a $1 billion deal, a 15-year, $1 billion deal. So I'm just trying to figure out how this happens. Does that get approved by the governor? How does this happen in Newark without you knowing?
Well, I mean, this is a private deal. Obviously, the case that you're talking about is still, part of it has been ruled out, so they're still appealing it. The AG here is appealing it, so it's still not completely adjudicated yet. But I don't know if it applied to the private sector. But in any event, anybody, private or public, they open up something here, we have to have record of it. We have to do inspections. There must be a certificate of occupancy. These guys believe they don't have to have one. Well, that's settled in court. It's not settled by ICE or the U.S. attorney or the president of the United States. A court settles that dispute, and they have not settled it yet. So until that's done, we're still in dispute with Geo, which has nothing to do with ICE, by the way.
I can't lie, seeing you arrested was very unsettling. And I hope that you're okay. For those who are like in New York and New Jersey, if that can happen to you, like what advice do you have to kids or young adults who may face similar instances and may not necessarily know how to handle it?
Well, I think we're living in a dangerous time, man. I don't know if we really understand what's going on. I mean, we learning new line dances, but we got to figure out what's going on around here, man. We're in a serious space, man. These guys could just like disregard the Supreme Court, disregard court orders. They can do what they feel like they can do whatever they want to do. And so you got to be on alert. You got to be focused. You have to know your rights, the laws, and at the end of the day, ultimately, they arrested me and took me through the whole process. Like I have to go to court on Thursday for pretrial hearing. They charged me with federal trespass, Class C misdemeanor. That stands for 30 days in jail and about $500 fine. It seems small, but it's still a problem. The reality is, we need to be focused on what's going on and be engaged and keep our ears and eyes open and be a part of what's going on. We can't be asleep around here.
Well, talking about some economic issues,
Yeah.
another thing that's really big in the news right now is the Newark airport situation.
Yes.
What is going on with Newark Airport? I saw today that a lot of flights have been canceled, and
Yeah.
it's been delays, cancellations. The federal government has gotten involved. You, as the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and Newark is a major hub as far as transportation on the airport. What's going on with this airport situation?
Well, it's the airspace is too crowded. The Federal Aviation Administration, when Trump came in, he started firing people immediately, right? Fired 400 people in the FAA. They had the problem, I would say, before that, but he made it worse by firing people. Newark air traffic controllers walked off the job. They basically did a sick out because of stress, because it is stressful if you lose communication with planes, people's lives are in your hand. Because the infrastructure is too old in all these air traffic controller sites from Atlanta to Newark to Philadelphia. And so they finally stopped talking about DEI and started saying they're going to hire more air traffic controllers. They're going to invest in, the infrastructure. In 2019, Biden put something before Congress to get more money to invest in infrastructure. They rejected it. And ultimately now we have this problem that we have in Newark and in that airspace. They really need to I'm actually glad they're canceling and delaying flights, because if they wasn't doing that, then we'd have a lot more accidents going on, because they just don't have the personnel or the infrastructure to manage that. But what they need to do is slow those flights down, put some more space between, or the time between when flights come in and when they leave, or when flights are leaving. They need to reduce the number of flights coming out of Newark in the first place until they get this thing fixed. You can't operate the airport like it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Not even last year. You need to slow those flights down and put some space in between that until you get this thing fixed.
So let me ask you this: me personally, right? I'm booking an international trip. I don't know if I feel confident flying out of Newark, and it's a real thing because there's only 2 international airports in New York, JFK and
Right.
Newark. Would you
Well,
suggest to just not fly out of Newark for the time being?
No, I think you're safe. I think if you want to be inconvenienced, you're going to have inconvenience for sure, because and the inconvenience becomes on that day of, or the time that the flights are going on, when they feel like it's too many flights in the air, they're going to slow yours down, or they're going to delay it, or cancel it, and that's what's going on. Instead of having an overall strategy of just saying, look, we're only going to fly a certain amount of planes today, or certain amount of planes, period, for this year until this thing is fixed. Which is going to hurt the bottom line of some airlines, right? They're going to have to say we can't fly as many flights out. We have to figure out what flights we're flying out and which we're not, which is going to divert people to other airports anyway, because you're not going to be able to fly out of Newark like you used to, because those flights are not going to be available, and that's what needs to happen. And at times we fly out many. Newark is one of the busiest airports in this region. We're flying plane after plane after plane. That stuff has to slow down. And the time periods between when planes leave and land has to be wider. And honestly, these folks don't really want to do that, because, you hurt people's bottom line. But that's what exactly needs to happen until we get this thing fixed.
Yeah, one of the things I definitely commend you on, and we've been watching from a distance, but a lot of our friends have been doing work in Newark, is your focus on entrepreneurship, in education and Black and brown business growth. Can you talk about some of the strategies? I know, obviously, as the mayor of Newark, you've implemented a lot of things, but now going to be the governor of the state, what type of strategies are you looking to implement statewide?
Yeah, first of all, we need to get a diversity procurement officer in the state. Right now in the state of New Jersey, only invest less than 1% of its dollars in Black and brown and women businesses. It's awful. In the county that I live in, they invest in 0.5%. We've invested more money in Newark and Black and brown women businesses than the county that we are in did as a whole, right? Which is a travesty. So we need a procurement officer there, a diversity procurement officer that has KPIs on these departments and making sure they're spending their money, that they're distributing resources in Black and brown and women businesses deliberately, right? And track what that looks like and key performance indicators throughout these departments. We also, I believe we need a public bank here, an investment bank, not a commercial bank, that we put our dollars in, that cities put their dollars in, that we let investment bankers put their dollars in, as well as banks with CRA, with the CRA. We put their CRA dollars in there and we invest directly and purposefully in Black and brown businesses and help them grow, help them expand, help them hire more employees. A lot of Black businesses are single proprietor businesses. If they have to fill out paperwork, if they have to get permits, they got to close their business down to go and do that. It means they're losing money. They can't afford to hire another person. We have to step in and give them the opportunity to be able to do that, to grow their businesses in multiple cities, especially in cities that are historically underrepresented or economically distressed. And we have to do this purposefully and deliberately. And we can do that with this public bank to invest those dollars and invest in home ownership in those communities as well, giving people a few opportunities to have capital as down payment for their homes, to begin to invest in folks who are building homes up, who are repairing homes, adding capital to that, and adding, helping people who have Section 8 vouchers to turn those vouchers into mortgages and give them the opportunity to get a low interest loan to be able to, or mortgage, to be able to have affordable home ownership, not just affordable housing, so we can deal with the crisis of affordability and wealth at the same time. These are very deliberate kind of things, and these are things we're doing in Newark, so it's not like new for us to do. Like, we've invested almost $200 million in Black and brown businesses in the last 4 years.
I know DEI has been stripped away given the new leadership in Washington, but can you talk to us about why it's important to have those investment dollars flow directly into our community and how it eventually affects the state?
Well, I mean, the problem with our economy now is that it's exclusive. It's not inclusive. And the economy, it becomes more robust and it grows when more people are in it. We put money in people's pockets and they can afford to participate in the economy. They could buy a home. They could, invest in businesses, purchase goods and services on the market. The U.S. market, the GDP is a purchasing market. We don't make anything. We buy everything, right? And so in order for our market to grow, you have to have money in people's pockets, right? And Black and brown communities have been excluded from that market. And we need a universal design that gives people a pathway into the market to stabilize it and to help it to grow. That's just a really economically right thing to do. It's not just the social justice thing to do. It's also the right thing to do economically. It's silly. If you had a lemonade stand, you want everybody to stop and buy your lemonade, no matter what their car was or what they look like. The reality is our economy cannot grow as exclusive as it is. It's just not enough people participating in the economy, and they don't have enough people to participate in the economy without Black and brown and working class families in this country. They just need us. That's just a fact.
So when we talk about Newark, New Jersey, and we talk about the oranges, we talk about Jersey City, the major thing that comes is gentrification and affordability. That kind of goes hand in hand. So you, as somebody that I'm sure is dealing with issues like that in your current city, within the state, if you become mayor, what is your plan to tackle the affordability crisis when it comes to having rent and home ownership, and also balancing gentrification so it doesn't displace communities?
That's a great question.
Right. So we have to build. Right now, New Jersey is short 230,000 units of affordable housing. We have to build more affordable housing across the state, up and down the area median incomes, from as low as people that are making $40,000, $30,000 a year to folks that are making $100,000 a year. We have to build affordable housing across the state, and the state needs to lead that. It needs to be a public works project statewide. The state is only building 3,000 to 5,000 units a year. We have to be building 20,000 units a year. We got to scale that up to that number, sit with the building trades, community advocates, local folks, and figure out where we're going to begin building housing, first around transit, where people can move back and forth around to their jobs and goods and services. We need to be doing that and expanding transit so we could do it in more areas. And then working to build accessory dwelling units that people can add pieces onto their home for elders in their family, folks that are disabled, for their kids come home from college, charge them a minimum rent, that becomes affordable housing. Allow people to build housing on irregular lots as starter homes. We have to engage in that more across the state. I mean, there's a lot of space, and we need to also count affordability in home ownership as well. So affordable home ownership, not just the rental units, and we can do that, right? We have to create what we call first loss capital. The state has to put money up first, and then get kind of investment to come in after that 2-to-1, and get other firms that want to invest to come in 3-to-1. So we create a fund, $400-500 million fund to invest just in affordable housing. Right now, there's no market for affordable housing. It needs a ton of subsidy in order to build that in New Jersey. So we need to create the market. Right now, the market is geared towards luxury housing. That's why people are building it. And folks think that, there's a button you push and gentrification happens. That's not how it works, right? So it starts off because the mortgages are too high, because the demand is greater than the supply. The mortgages are too high. So somebody coming out of college to get a good job, you got a 6-figure salary, you could probably go into the house, but the mortgage is too high. It's anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million, which forces you into these rental units in Jersey City and Newark and East Orange and all these places for about $2,000, $2,200. So a unit that could have been used for somebody who needed it at $1,500, at $1,200, at $900 is now off the market for a person that's trying to get a unit for $2,100 or $2,200. There are about 100,000 people who fit that bill in New Jersey. So those housing units are being built for them, besides the people that's coming from New York and other places where the average rent in New York is about $5,000. So those people are coming to those units. And so that drives people into like homelessness, because they can't afford what the market is doing, which is why we have to deliberately and purposefully create or shift the market by investing tons of dollars into affordable housing.
Yeah. After your experience over the past few days, I wonder now how you look at, or how you're reshaping, or maybe not, your commitment to navigating criminal justice reform, right? We've seen people wrongfully accused. We always hear discussions and debate about police accountability. How are you navigating that in the next year or so?
Yeah, man. I mean, we're the only city that has a civilian complaint review board with no teeth. We took it all the way to the Supreme Court in New Jersey. We lost there. They said the legislator has to give us subpoena power. They did not do that yet. We're still fighting for that. We need that. New Jersey has a law that can take police officers' licenses away if they do things that they shouldn't be doing, even if the court does not completely convict them. The state has a remedy. Is it being used properly? I don't think so. But there are remedies in New Jersey that we could use to put pressure to make sure police are doing the right thing in our communities. We're still battling around qualified immunity. But the real issue here is that we need to make sure we reform the police training commission here in the state of New Jersey, so police can be trained completely different. We also need to make sure that the police departments reflect the communities that they serve, and that they're trained specifically around de-escalation and community engagement fundamentally. And I think we need community violence intervention organizations working closely with the police. When you create that kind of ecosystem, it changes the relationship between police and the community. They begin looking at the community and its people differently, and vice versa. It has worked for us in Newark. We've reduced homicides in our city by 61% since I've been the mayor. Our complaints against police officers have went down about 40 to 50%. So that relationship is being repaired as people begin to work together to solve fundamental and intractable problems that the city has that's based on trauma, right? We have trauma to trust trainings between police and community. So all of that, this stuff has to be repaired, right? You can't just pass a law and do something and it changes. This is long-standing behavior that exists because of cultural differences and because of history of police and our community.
Jersey City looks different than what I remember it when I was in college. Newark is looking beautiful. Why do you think, despite the growth in tech innovation, and let's say in Newark, that there's a change or a need for bold leadership for the state of New Jersey?
Well, New Jersey has serious inequity, man. We compare ourselves to everybody else, so we don't really talk about it. The wealth gap in New Jersey, the median white family in New Jersey's wealth is about, was during COVID was about $300,000. For black families, it was about $20,000, right?
Wow.
Since then, it has doubled. So white families' median wealth is $600,000, and black wealth have stayed the same. That wealth gap is incredible. It's large and it's growing under Democratic rule, right? And that's basically fueled by the lack of home ownership and the lack of business development and growth. Fundamentally, your income, you can't pass your income down to your children. You need wealth and assets to be able to pass that down to make it generational. Those gaps exist because of the boulders that exist in our way, that were put in our way deliberately so we could not obtain wealth in this country. And it has nothing to do with your education. You can be dumb as a doorknob and obtain wealth because your family passed it down to you. African-American women, we have some of the finest hospitals and medical institutions in the nation, but African-American women die 7 times more in New Jersey's hospitals giving birth. And African-American children die 3 times more before they become the age of 1 year old, right? But where I live in the Week Lake section of Newark and Livingston, which is only 8 miles apart, there's a 14-year life expectancy difference. There's very real inequity in our state. Black children are charged with the same crimes as white children, but are 17 times more likely to be arrested for those crimes. And this is problematic. And so we can't carry people's water anymore. We have to fight for the things that we need. And I honestly believe that rising tides lift all boats, man. And that honestly, if we could change this inequity in this state, the state is better off. The economy is better. Our lives are better. Our community is better. Look, we're fixing Newark little by little. And if we had a deliberate state plan to do that, we could deal with Newark, Camden, Irvington, Patterson, all of the places where we are. We can do that. We can do those things simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need bold vision right now, especially in this Trump time.
Before we go, I'm gonna squeeze 2 questions in one if I can. The first question is Mark Zuckerberg. It might be hard to believe now because he's ultra MAGA, but a while ago he wanted to help a lot of black people for some reason, and he gave $100 million to Newark, New Jersey. This is when Cory Booker was the mayor of Newark. Now Cory Booker is the senator. He just gave a 27-hour speech. So he gave $100 million. Whatever happened with that situation? Like, how did that ever pan out? We never really heard like after that. And then my follow-up question to that is, do you feel the Democratic Party has been hijacked by extremists? What I mean is that there's an extreme liberal part of the Democratic Party. So when Trump ran, he ran on things that most people not in their day-to-day thought box, like transgender people playing volleyball, right? Like, me personally, I don't think transgender kids should be playing with girls. That's just my personal opinion. I think most Americans believe that. But Democrats can't say that because I feel that part of their base has kind of hijacked the party. So they're getting held up, in my opinion, they're getting held up on very small issues. And that's hurting them, because they can't just say like, no, I don't agree with that. Like, I know I'm for certain things, but I draw the line on certain things. That's my 2 questions combined into one. Right.
So the Zuckerberg money went to a nonprofit organization. It didn't go to the city of Newark or Newark Public Schools. It went to a nonprofit organization, and they basically disseminated the money in ways that they thought was good for them based on their policy. They helped charter schools. They helped different things like that. But it never went directly to Newark Public Schools and never went to the city of Newark. There is a community-based nonprofit that they created that used that money in the way that they saw fit. So it wasn't a direct infusion into the city's economy like that. And but great if it was, but it would have been a little better. I mean, obviously they needed to have somebody monitor what they were doing, but I think they had their own agenda at the time. Look, I think the Democratic Party, ultimately, I don't know if it's gone too far to the left, but I think what has happened is that people can't differentiate between the Democrats and the Republicans, right? I think the Democratic Party, more than anything, has become elitist. I mean, transgender sports, they're about less than 1% of that happening in the country. You allowed Donald Trump to hijack the conversation. That's what happened. He hijacked the conversation. We were defending ourselves all the way through, as opposed to being on the offense. Whether you agree with folks being transgender or not, I mean, most people in the Democratic Party believe that folks that are in the transgender community should not be targeted, should not be hurt, should not be, oppressed or their rights taken away from them, right? And that's really what the stance is. They turned that into something different, right? As opposed to what it really was, which is people need to have gender affirming care. Like people need to be able to go to the hospital. People need to be able to get help.
But
all of those
some,
things.
some level of pushback for that.
Yeah.
All right. I get what you're saying, but there is a certain level of you can't, like, I felt like Kamala couldn't say, or like no Democrat could say, no, I agree that people that are transgender should have rights as human beings, but that doesn't mean that they should participate. And like you said, it's a very small thing, right? So
Yeah.
you let somebody
Minuscule.
hijack the entire collection, the entire election based off of something it's a non-issue. It's not even
And
an
box
issue.
turn.
So
Yep.
being
Well,
that it's not an issue, why can't we
you
just
got
say
handlers and people that are in charge of messaging, right, who really dropped the ball there. The reality is we should be talking about working class issues of us being able to take care of ourselves and our families. But we also have a legitimate concern about people and their rights being taken because ours have been taken over and over again, just like the fight around immigrants. We let them paint this picture that everybody was like a murderer, a rapist, a killer. And in reality, that's a very, very small, minute number. African Americans was the first undocumented people in this place, period, which is why the 14th Amendment was important for us, because the people born or naturalized in the United States, that amendment came from post-slavery, from after slavery in Reconstruction. Black people fought because we were considered property and could not sue, could not vote, could not do anything. We had no due process, right? They could just round us up and hang us. We were the first undocumented, so we fought for the 14th Amendment, and now it's being applied to everybody else. So we have to be sensitive to those issues because it could be turned on us quickly, right? And so people in our party, we understand that, and people just have to have the courage to say what they believe and what they think and so forth and so on. And the irony of this, people don't want transgender folks to play sports because they believe they have the strength or so forth and so on, that men and not women, and that's what people believe. But gender affirming care is hormonal care that allows them to have the treatments so they can change their hormones. So that situation wouldn't be that way, which is interesting that we don't want one or the other. Like the way I see it is like if we let people go to the hospital to get their breasts reduced, or people do it or to get it enlarged, or do all kinds of things like that, that is elective surgery that we allow folks to do. Now, if other people want to do it, then that's also elective surgery. And so we can't say one person can do it and not the other person can do it. Getting into this argument about it, to me, it really serves the interests of these folks who don't care about anybody. The Democrats harping on this and backing themselves into a corner on it is a problem as well. We never on the offense. We never on the offense. We always.
Why is that? 'Cause, I wanted to ask that. Like, why are the Democrats always on the fence and not willing to speak freely when the messaging is not getting to the people? Like, I've seen more Democrats turn Republican in this last election just because the messaging was off base.
But because we on the defense, and because they don't know how to talk to working people anymore, because they're trying to protect their interests and act like they support everybody at the same time. These folks in leadership of these parties, the people that keep saying we're giving the millionaires money and we take, those people are their friends too. Like, these people finance their campaigns as well. These people are in their circles. So it's difficult for you can't say you want to reduce healthcare, but you're being financed by multinational insurance companies, multinational hospitals. You can't say that. You can't say, oh, I want to have affordable housing, when the people who finance your campaign are these huge BlackRock who invest in buying up all of the property and artificially raising people's mortgages up so they can take all of the equity out of these homes. Like, I mean, these are the people, they support Republicans and Democrats, right? And so it's hard for you to talk about the issues that matter. So you're focusing on things that regular working people not really focused on.
Don't
Right.
care
So
about. Yep.
the reality is you can't talk about healthcare and reducing the costs and doing all this other stuff. So you let the Republicans make them people believe that they're the party of the working class, and they're not the party of the working class. All the stuff Trump said he was going to do, he did none of it. The minute he came in, he started passing executive orders attacking black people and brown people. That's it, clearly, point blank. He didn't do no infrastructure. He didn't give no reduction on your income on tips that he was talking about. He didn't lower egg prices. He didn't do any of it, right? What he did was what he was planning on doing from the very, very, very beginning. And I think Kamala was very honest about wanting to have an economy that's inclusive. I don't think the people around her helped her get that message out the way it needed to be. That's for sure. And they have us focused on the discussion. We still talking about, all the things that we shouldn't be talking about.
Yeah,
We
not
really should be
important
talking
issues.
about black wealth. We should be talking about wages, work, and wealth. That's it. How do we increase our wages? How do we increase more opportunity? And how do we get wealth in this country? What is stopping us from getting those things? Move those things out of our way so we can get it, right? That's what our topic of discussion should be. That's how we should be on the offensive. Don't let people steer us into all of these other directions. And we defend people who can't defend themselves. We was raised that way. We speak up for people who can't speak for themselves. We don't like bullies, and we fight bullies. That's it. Like, we did that in school, and we're doing that as men. So the reality is this is what we need, and we should be pushing in that direction. Wages, work, and wealth, period.
It's interesting you said standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, because obviously we saw what happened this weekend with you being arrested. There's been an increase in ICE raids, obviously, with the political climate. But in the midst of all that, you're making Newark a sanctuary city. So how's that process going? We looked at what happened here in New York City with Mayor Adams. And we saw some of the outcomes of it. What's your vision for making it a sanctuary city in this climate?
Well, we've been a sanctuary city since when New York was, right? So when first Trump won, when his first term, we were a sanctuary city. We got some of the residual from New York City. Obviously, when people come and those buses came to New York, you can't keep them in New York by law, so they wound up on a path or Uber or whatever they took, and they wound up in Newark. So our food lines grew, and we had to give money to more agencies that gave our food. Our sheltering grew, and so we had to spend more money on sheltering. We got the effects of that, not as bad as New York, because New York got the direct hit. We got the second wave in Newark and New Jersey and parts of New Jersey. And so we basically had to do what we need to do to take care of people. The reality is we give people access to our economy, and that's what needs to happen. And that's really what the answer is. Immigrants in New Jersey contribute $1 billion or more than $1 billion to state and local taxes. Finding opportunities for people to work, finding opportunities for people to move from sheltering to transitional housing, from transitional housing to homes, just like you do everybody else, right? You don't have to do anything separate. You already got something for people who come who are homeless. Homelessness in New Jersey just didn't start. Like, we've been had homelessness in New Jersey. Whatever program you were instituting for that to push people through, you begin to, you have to make it more urgent. And that's what we've been doing, like making it more urgent. And we're moving away from sheltering to transitional housing. We reduced street homelessness 2 years ago by 57% in the city of Newark through us having, outreach teams, 24-hour outreach teams, psychiatrists on the field with them that can give scripts to people on the street. We can admit people on the street. We can give them prescriptions on the street. We can do all of that right there, right? And using container homes to build more housing out of containers in Newark. And so that helped us house people. And we commandeered 200 units from the housing authority that we fixed up ourselves. So we're in the process of fixing completely up. So those units will be used just for us, so we can use it for transitional housing. I think sheltering is old, it's costly, it doesn't work. It's warehousing. People don't move away from shelters to go to transitional housing, to permanent housing. They stay in those shelters for a very long time in horrible conditions. And then we kick them out in the daytime and they wander the streets trying to make money without any support or help. That model is broken and needs to change, right? And we've been moving to change that, and it's working for us in Newark. So we do that with immigrants and migrants as well.
For sure. Ian, last question.
What's the greatest opportunity you think for the city of Newark over the next 4 or 5 years? And I know you guys have done a great job on tech, but what are the other industries that you think could be brought into East Orange, Newark to help the state overall?
So I think the film industry is growing in New Jersey because of those tax credits. We are building a studio for Lionsgate already in Newark on Freeland Heights and Avenue. We're in the process of talking to build another studio, the Oprah Winfrey Studios in Newark as well. I think film in New Jersey is going to be big, especially what's happening in California.
Yes.
People are trying to find places to go. I notice a lot of these studios and the content they need is so rapid. They're looking for studio space. They're building all over. Netflix is building a studio in New Jersey as well. So I think film in New Jersey is going to be the next thing. Newark is benefiting from that tremendously. There's a lot of kind of residual effects that will happen because of these film studios coming up. In our city, a lot of commercial opportunity, retail opportunity as well. The second thing I think is that we need to invest in a port. We have the second largest seaport in the nation, could easily be the first, could affect the supply chain that's coming through this country through the city of Newark. If we expand it, modernize it, add more berth. So take the dredge that they're pulling out of the Passaic and build another berth to make it the largest seaport. We already feeding up and down the eastern seaboard. We can push that further into the Midwestern part of the United States. There's a lot of things that can happen there, a lot of jobs that are going to be created. Logistics is New Jersey's number one thing anyway. We have an incredible transportation infrastructure that we don't lean into. We need to lean into it and make sure that we involved in it, right? and we as us on this phone, this Zoom, that we are involved in that. Like, there's nothing that should happen in New Jersey that we don't have an opportunity to be a part of.
Before this is my last question before we wrap, because you said something that I was going to mention earlier, but you guys have a major port in New Jersey. People might not know that in Newark. How has this been affected by tariffs, if any? And what's your whole thought process on this whole tariff thing, how it played out? We talked about it earlier in the show, but you know, went from 145%, they dropped it back down to 10%, drastic drop. So that directly affects your port, because I'm sure that there's been a disruption in ships coming from China, or maybe it hasn't. But yeah, I'm just interested to know like how it has affected in your thoughts on the tariffs in general.
Yeah. So Newark is the largest seaport in this part of the nation. When the Baltimore Bridge fell, all those ships came into Newark, right? All of them came into Newark, right? So it hasn't had a marginal effect now, that not a massive or impact. It would take time to do that. What it has affected is the market itself. I mean, tariffs are really a dumb idea. It's really a a battle that these guys are having that they can't uphold. You see what the tech companies did. They automatically jumped on them and dropped those tariffs off of those phones because an iPhone would have cost you about $9,000 in this place. Is just ridiculous. It's just like telling China we're going to put a tariff on everything, but the main thing we get from there. It just doesn't make sense. And what the president don't understand is that we are a consumer economy. People don't want to make iPhones; they just want to buy them, and that's really what this is, right? There's no manufacturing in this place. And Newark was a manufacturing city in New Jersey, in this area. Everything was built and manufactured here, from paint to drawers to film to light bulbs, everything, furniture, and that's how people work. That's why people came to Newark to get jobs. Most of that stuff is gone, right? Because we're not manufacturing anymore. Manufacturing is now highly advanced, technologically advanced, robotic, all this stuff. It doesn't happen in the U.S. If he wanted to do that 10 years ago, he should have started building plants in the U.S., engaging them, building manufacturing here. Then the tariff would make a little bit of sense. Right now, that makes no sense at all. You're not going to force people to build a factory in your country. Plus, how long is it going to take for them to do that, even if they decided to do it? It just makes no sense at all. It's just a dumb strategy, and it's designed to make him appear like he's strong. And it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And best of luck in your gubernatorial.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Appreciate you.
Okay, there you have it. Yes, insightful conversation for sure.
Yeah, man.
Jersey, one of my favorite places on earth. So
you good in Jersey now?
I've always been. What?
Nah, I remember you was, Irvington has some issues with you.
Irvington?
I'm playing.
No, never in life. I'll call every orange I know. East, West. I'll call Bayonne too. What?
Shout out to
Real
Jersey.
quick. Shout out to
Spent
Jersey.
a lot of summer vacations in Jersey as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I know some summers in Jersey too.
Okay. New Jersey. Shout out to New Jersey. Shout out to New Jersey.
Shout out to Newark,
Rashad, you're hilarious, yo.
New Jersey Drive.
Facts.
Who is Redman?
Yeah, Redman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Redman, Latifah,
Tretch.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out
Latifah and
to them.
Shaq cooking too. On the real estate side, ooh.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Other G
Yeah.
unit. Flavor unit, other flavor unit. A bunch of doors.
So, okay. So back to the stock conversation for a little bit. Let's talk about Tesla.
Mhm.
So Tesla stock is back on the rise. And that's, I don't think it's a coincidence, but it's a direct correlation for sure
Mhm.
from Mark Zuckerberg just shutting up, really. Like, he just hasn't really said anything. Elon Musk has not said anything in a few weeks. And, it's just kind of getting back to being a CEO of a company and not a talking head for a political party. But what's the future direction for Tesla stock?
You got to put out guidance. As of the first quarter, Tesla's net profit margin has declined to 2.12%, the lowest level since mid 2019. Now, the great part about when you make mistakes, like you said, you have to correct them. So he has said that he's going to be back in the office. The stock, of course, pushed up today because of the news, but not based on their fundamentals. But got to work on a profit margin. I think needs to work on a product offering to make it more appealing. And once again, I think the biggest lesson from the tariff situation in this is to not lose the edge that you have, because you're not guaranteed to get it back just because the environment changes. I don't know if people will look at that brand the same going forward. Will that be okay? Yes. Do I think that they can get back to up to 360? Yes, by end of year. But he needs to be very clear with his executive management and himself what the plan is going to be going forward in order to turn things around at the company. Because the bump today had nothing to do with him. It was everything about the news on the tariffs.
Yeah, the trade in the tariff trade in China. I mean, you're right. When we talk about fundamentals matching the actual stock price, this is one of those companies, and we spoke about it a few times, but it kind of doesn't add up.
It's a huge mismatch.
The most important number will be the sales in China, let alone the tariffs, right? Because that hasn't stopped BYD from continuously selling cars. Tariffs are not; they're still selling cars. And so, what would that number look like? What would the number look like inside the U.S.? And obviously, the Cybertruck has been a huge disappointment, except on some of these Instagram feeds. But the sales overall are not what they expected.
No.
And so, yeah, maybe him being back in the seat will focus up. There'll be some more innovation, but it's tough to trade it. The volatility.
I don't think you should trade it.
It's just been inconsistent. I mean, even during the pandemic, you saw some very high moves and some very deep pullbacks.
Yeah,
and we're seeing it now. We saw what happened around the election and that ride up to 400s, and obviously after the news today, we saw a nice uptick. But again, it's not based on the fundamentals. So it's. I know people have it in their long-term portfolios, which is great, and if you do great, and if you got it at a great price, even better. But it just makes it tough.
But to trade it is almost.
Yeah.
It's not wise to do so. There's too much volatility.
Tough.
Yeah. The operating margin dropped from 2 to 2.55% in Q1 of 2025, and 2023 was at 9.2%. It's okay to try and save the country. You got to save yourself first. Shout out to 19 Keys. You got to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah. And he wasn't, he was opposed to tariffs. He was outly against the tariffs.
I would be too.
For obvious reasons.
If I was in what?
Yeah.
I walk right in your office, Rashad. What are we doing about the red panda tariff?
I thought we spoke about
I thought it was cool, my boy.
But we had We got the Cybertruck out front.
Yeah. So I think they'll be fine. They definitely need to course correct. And if inflation continues to pace higher, I mean, another company that had a Bitcoin investment, I know they sold some of it off, but they have to figure out this profit margin issue. It's the most important factor in the company right now.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the year-end price for the S&P 500?
It's a great question. I'm gonna be, man, we should probably get to SPY. We should probably get to 610, 615. Like, I'm super bullish on the market. Do I think we'll still have a issue in the summertime? For sure. But that, once again, the asymmetric risk to reward, when we bottomed out at 481, the 500 area, it was too attractive of a price to not buy. And if he can hold off for 90 days on this, and then after the 90 days, extend it for another 90 days, we're going to have a great rally. And at some point, like you said, he may just have to stabilize at 10 or 15% and say that this strategy is not working. I'm going to keep it at a flat rate and let business be business. If not, the Republicans are going to get shellacked in about a year and a half. So
you think that it's going to just go back to where it was in February?
Yeah.
In February before this, it was 613.
Yep. It'll get back to those highs.
You're saying 615. That so it'll go back. It'll go back to where it was.
Where
not
it was.
high, not higher than where it was.
No, I don't see, because there's no catalyst right now for it to go higher with the debt to GDP being so high. And also too, I mean, the mayor talked about it, but like I wish all the governors and the president and the powers that be would come together and put together a 20-year plan for America to change it. Everyone's thinking 1 to 4 years. You can't run a business like that effectively. And for us to be a superpower, a lot of the advantages that we've used to have are bleeding away. So yeah, we'll get back to those highs, but there's no reason right now for us to push to the 620. I saw some people calling for 700. I'm like, what's the catalyst for that? We can't just keep, and I love Kathy, but we got to quit throwing that 2,700 number around Tesla and 700 SPY into the year just because. No.
Yeah. In order for it to just be positive for the year, I know February had its highs, but it S&P has to finish above 5870. So even if it gets up to 63, you're talking about a positive year in the S&P, which would have been the third year in a row. So hopefully we'll see that.
I hope so, but we have a lot of turbulence to navigate through.
Yeah, we still have 2 rate cuts coming. We know, everybody has predicted that. So that could potentially be a catalyst. I don't know if that gets it up to 65. 7,000 that's
insane.
real. That's real lofty. I don't think we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, could we return to February highs? Very
For
likely.
sure.
Yeah, we get a certainty around some of these tariffs. We get some rate cuts. You can see it again there.
That little spoon that they had in that France office with that little powder, y'all got to stop doing that when y'all get your price targets for the end of the year. 7,000, not happening. I don't care. No, not happening. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't.
It's a great headline.
Yeah,
you want to go viral? S&P 800. I feel you. It's not going to happen. Sorry.
Nowhere near gonna happen.
That's like S&P 4,000.
Like, come on. We can't even get market stability state to state. Like, even like he talked, homelessness is at peak levels, and it's just, I just wish there would be a consortium that would come together, make a 10-year plan or 20-year plan, and that's stuck to. So it's not happening. It's too much infighting.
Okay.
And I've been telling y'all for 2 or 3 years, 60-40 portfolios dying, and now y'all want to do 25, 25, 25, 25. That sounds like 2 tech, 2 index.
What will be the 25, 25, 25?
They're saying stocks, crypto, bonds, and then like an alternative, maybe like crude. I'm not mad at it, but I've been screaming, why is the bond market down this much for 3 years? No clear answer. I know Eastman gave an answer, but
So you're 25, 25, 25. That would draw the comparison between two tech, two index.
Four.
Just the
Four
four,
selection.
the quadrant.
Yeah. They
Okay.
just won't say two tech, two index.
Okay, I got you. All right,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
you. All right, got you.
Because it's that what they're doing is a truncated version of Dalio's all-weather portfolio.
Yeah, because I'm thinking it as a listener, right? If I have 100% allocation, right? This is my 100%. Am I putting 25% into one tech? Am I putting a 25% into tech number two, and then obviously split the 50 between two indexes? That's my 100% allocation.
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah. And really, it's of course the tech or the ETF or the index, but
Right.
you're really investing into companies who have a moat so wide that they won't be able to be breached. That's why Vanguard, BlackRock, Invesco, Invesco. You're investing into superpowers. Like some of these companies are super companies. BlackRock and Vanguard are two of those. So
Invesco was another one.
for sure. Invest with Invesco.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
But if I can do it all over again, if that was institutional investment into Bitcoin, I probably would have put Bitcoin into two tech, two index when we started the show, if they were in. They just didn't have institutional buy-in. So, and I told y'all what happened, and now we're here.
Is it subject to change? Could there be an amendment?
Me? No. I have futures. I don't need that. Hey, shout out to Conspirator. I see all the little posts that you make. I get that, and from a long term, but it's hard for me to even divert that if I can get 700% return in a month from futures. Now, if you don't know how to trade futures, amazing investment. But I see value this in Bitcoin, value it based on my return.
Fair.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. Another legendary episode of Market Mondays. Oh, and also let me so the post that I made on social media that got a lot of traction about the LLC thing.
Tough.
And appreciate it. And I was anticipating some level of trust conversation to come into that situation. So yes, I'm aware pass through and a trust, but this is more specifically towards business owners, where is the protection aspect is one thing, but you got to make sure that you're getting tax deductions for everything that you actually do. So that was something that's very beneficial as far as even with Shaq, when he said, I actually learned something from Shaq, because that's something that I implemented when he was saying that he was putting he was just giving his mother money. But then after a while, it's like, well, that's not really beneficial for me. It would be more helpful if you actually sign this W-9 and I can hire you as an independent contractor. Now the money that I'm giving you is actually tax deductible through my company. That's something I actually implemented in real life. So that, and then of course, like we talked about the cars and a variety of other different things, even leasing an apartment. That's something that I had to learn also. Like, you lease an apartment through a business name and you can actually get a tax deduction for leasing your apartment through your business name, through your LLC. So yes, I know everybody's a
trust expert.
Yeah, trust expert. Everybody's a trust
Yeah,
expert.
they asked. I saw one comment. They said, "But what's wrong with the bust down Rolly?" Like,
no, shout out to the bust down Rolly crew. Like
I did see that one comment. I'm like, what? That's what you got from this?
Shout out to the bust downs out there. This is part of marketing. Cause shout out to I have personal friends that wear bust down Rolly. So I don't want to offend anybody, but what I learned from social media is that you got to say something provocative to get people's attention. So the bust down Rolly thing was a provocative statement to make. That's I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but that's just more just to get people's attention. If you want to get a bust down Rolly, you can get a bust down Rolly. I personally, it's not my thing. I just feel like from a standpoint of that, of course, it doesn't appreciate, you devalue the asset. That's one aspect of it. But for me personally, I don't think that it's tastefully done. As far as me personally, like I don't even wear chains. I never had my ears pierced, so I don't think that I would be a person that would be an advocate for putting a tremendous amount of diamonds in the face of my watch. I just I'm a taste maker. So that I actually make taste for the palates of of the community. So being a tastemaker, you have to step outside the norm. But like I said, I'm not crucifying anybody that has a bust down rollie. I just don't think that is a great investment. And I also don't think that is something that personally looks good if you're trying to be taken serious in this world. I think it's a little bit
And
embarrassing. That's
I
my
saw
opinion.
that too. It'd be so many fake ones, you can't tell the real ones from the fake ones. Y'all done ruined the jury game.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And that happens to a lot of celebrities. People brought, Little Baby. He had a fake watch, right? And watch busters caught him, and then he went back to the jeweler, and they had to make a whole thing about it. And he's like, "Oh, you want to give me the real watch, or we're gonna have a real problem."
Real watch or real problem?
Real problem. You do not want that problem.
Just choice. Real watch or real problem?
I say it can happen to anybody. Like, you got to be careful. That's why you should always buy from directly the store or authorized. That's why I don't trust jewelers. Sorry to any jeweler that's watching.
That's another conversation.
I just don't trust you guys, because how do I know what you're doing behind the curtains? Like, you could be they all look real. Like Ocho said, it looks real when the lights hit it.
For real.
Your Cuban zirconia, if you get good Cubans,
some of them moissanite be outshining real VBS ones.
And that'll ring up a few times as diamond.
So it's like, me, man,
it'll ring up.
I just stay away from that, man. Rest in peace to the young brother from Philadelphia. We really got to talk about gun violence, but also it goes back to just, man, that's why I'm just like, I ain't even wearing no chain. I had to put this on Instagram a few days. Like, the best way not to get robbed is don't have something that somebody wants, right? Like, I know that may seem like you're taking a coward way. Like, yo, if I work for this, I'm not going to tuck my chain. I'm not saying that you have to tuck your chain in. I'm just saying that, is it worth dying over? Probably not. Is it worth paying security more than the actual cost of your chain? Like, you could just walk freely and not have to worry about that. Like, you know what I mean? So for me personally, I want to be able to shine without diamonds. So that's why I'm in the gym. That's why, I drink water and all of that. Like, I don't feel like I need diamonds on to shine, but also just be careful, because it's like
the wolves are watching.
You're putting a price tag on your head by wearing these things, wearing these items, and it's really costing people their lives.
That's the other part of that conservative talk that a lot of people don't factor in with me. Yeah, I've never wanted to be robbed for Apple Watch or books. Nobody is like, yo, when I see Ian, boy, I'm getting that money master the game off of him, boy. Does not happen. You got to learn how to shine just in your circle. And other than that, plain Jane.
Yeah.
Plain Jane.
It's real.
Just like all the other billionaires do. They won't show you all that shit like in public at the conference. Then when you go see them in other countries, got $700,000 watch. What's a Bovate watch? What? Okay. It's tears. Be careful.
Enjoy it in real life. Enjoy it in real life. Like, if that's what you like, enjoy it. There's no gratification in saying like, this is what I got, because any type of success breeds envy. It's just a natural way of life. And so if that's what you like, enjoy it. Enjoy it in the circumference of your people who you think who love you, and do it because you enjoy it, not because you're trying to prove anything to anyone else. But just be mindful of it, man. It's a dangerous world out here, and we're all susceptible to anything. Like, that doesn't we can have nothing on and something can happen. We're not saying that we're immune from that, but the chances and the likelihood of something happening with that definitely increase.
You gotta be careful. You gotta move correct. And then also, like I said, as my job as a tastemaker, it's important. It's important for me to ruffle feathers to set the tone. I just don't agree with bust down. It's just not my thing. But also Chrome Heart jeans for $14,000 that you gotta make layaway plans on. That's not my thing.
Insane.
Somebody's gotta speak out against this to let you know that that doesn't dictate whether you have good fashion sense or not. Just because you're spending thousands of dollars on Chrome Heart jeans, to me, as somebody who has some level of relevancy in this conversation when it comes to fashion and taste making abilities, I want to say that I don't agree with that. I want to break up that. I want to be a person that breaks up that ideology of the more you spend, the better it is.
The better it is, because it's not.
I feel like you could spend $100 for some jeans if you rock it and they don't got crazy labels on you. Rock it the right way. Like, I've never looked at something like, oh, this costs $14,000, so I have to buy it.
$14,000 for some. Shout to the boy. But 14,000 for some jeans and crazy. They look like some old Jenkos.
And 2 years from now, they're not even gonna be worth nothing.
Yeah, that was
At
a
all.
revelation.
They're gonna be Parasuco jeans.
That was a revelation. I didn't know there was that much, and I saw some that were more. I said, "Damn,
What?
How they getting these? How they getting them?" Like,
Crazy.
and do you wear that once? Like, how does that work? Do you like, is that a once a week thing, or like how you go about that?
Man, all that shit comes from skateboard culture. That's when Jim Jones shot to him. But then Tank Davis, when he was rocking the chrome heart boxing shorts, and all that shit just comes from moments in culture, black people doing it, and then they just seeing how far they can go with it.
Yeah,
that's the same thing they do over and over again. Let's just see how far we can push it. And they just keep pushing it until people, like, at a certain point in time, you just gotta be like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not spending $14,000 for a pair of jeans." There's no jeans in the world that's actually even disrespectful that they would even target, and it's targeted to
us.
75. We're gonna talk about this on Blackout. 75% of luxury buyers are middle to low income people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We try and prove it. What we trying to prove?
Yep. There's another little video going around too about certain brands, and if the monogram is only black models and sold to us at a premium, it's like, for what? Some of that shit don't even look good.
Oh, like True Religion? Yeah,
and some of the watches too. Some of the bust downs y'all paying all that money for it don't look like $90,000 worth of diamonds on it.
They had a whole revamping campaign. Was about to file for bankruptcy. Re-envision the entire brand. First order business. Let's find women who can sell this brand for us. What do they find? Sexy Red.
Bow.
And Meg Thee Stallion. Those are the two ambassadors right now.
And I'll say this too. Shout out to the CEO of North America, LVMH, because we actually interviewed him. Good guy. But he said something that I caught, and he said he's happy that there's the end of the quiet luxury era. So the quiet luxury era was be able to wear luxury items, but they had no logo on it.
No logo on it, yep.
So I'm like, why would the CEO of LVMH say that he's happy that that's ending? I don't know. To me, it hasn't ended. But of course, they want you to wear a logo because now you're paying
to be the brand ambassador.
If you feel comfortable wearing clothes with no logo, everybody's in competition with each other. You don't know the difference between Zara or Louis Vuitton. But now, if you gotta have the logo on it, it could be the same exact thing, but that one logo is going to change it. Once again, I don't really wear clothes with too much logos because I feel like I'm not just going to give you free promotion. But if it's dope, it's dope. It don't matter who makes it. It don't matter if you make it. It don't matter if Gucci makes it. If it's fly, it's fly. Like, to say that era is coming to an end and you happy, that means that you have to sell the logo, and it's going to help the brands that have built that logo to mean something. But man, we gotta destroy all that logo worship, and that's just like idolatry. It's like praying. It's like praying to idols, really. Like you really just going to do anything just to have a small logo on it.
For sure, I'm paying a premium that we've never seen before, and the quality of some of that stuff not what it used to be.
No, a shirt is a shirt. I don't care. Like, maybe the bags, because they was telling me about the luxury bag, whatever.
And the leather, like belts, stuff like that.
Jeans are jeans. A shirt is a shirt, bro. Like, you wearing a shirt, if you wash it, it's not going to be the same but as before you washed it.
Yeah.
No t-shirt is washable proof. It's always going to get altered on a certain level if you wash it. I've never seen a t-shirt yet that has not changed when washed.
Yeah.
But how are we rocking this though? I'm really, after you buy the item of that price, you can't just wear that. That's like,
them little chrome hoodies they be wearing them.
You gonna wear them like for 6 days in a row?
Uniform.
They don't wear them 6 days.
I'm just saying, like, you doing it once a week, once a month. Like, how does this work?
What people are wearing for Instagram. So you wear it, you do a photo, you take photos, you take video, you do all that shit.
Yeah.
Look down, all that shit is, to me, that shit is corny. If you're taking a photo, look at the photo. Like, all of this shit that happened with
trying to play too cool.
Travis Scott and all that shit, where you trying to look away, y'all trying to emulate other people, looking like vampires, not looking at the photo, looking up, putting your head down, putting your hands in front of your face.
Yeah.
All that shit is weird.
Be you, yo.
Yeah.
No
I'm
originality,
about to
yo.
do an episode like this.
Come on, man. Wearing ski masks in summertime, like
While getting robbed. You getting
Nah,
robbed with the ski
definitely
mask.
just seen Thugger. He did a whole interview with GQ with a mask on.
and I'm telling the dude, I'm not talking to someone. We had this happen before. Somebody was going to do an interview with us, and this is a person that, you know, people was kind of scared of at that moment, and they were like, yo, he's going to do an interview with his mask on. I'm like, no, I'm not talking to somebody with a mask on. I said, bro, you mind? No, no problem. Because as a black man,
Yeah.
I'm respecting you, and I expect you to respect me, right? Like, I'm not gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna look you in your face. You don't have a conversation with a man with a mask on. That's disrespectful.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But y'all do what y'all want and keep spending and giving all y'all money away, but then telling us stocks are too expensive. I don't want to hear it.
I digress. That's the moment of culture segment. So yeah, the LLC play for all you trust experts. Congratulations, salute. But it's a good way to save money in your taxes.
For sure.
And,
And for privacy too. So because people will get to Googling where you live.
That's a fact.
yeah,
You have to be careful.
That's a fact.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. I think it even invites the conversation, right? Even if somebody is saying trust, 6 years ago, that wasn't even a part of a conversation. So at worst, it invokes conversation for the betterment of us.
Right? Because I specifically want to do LLC because there's a thing called LLC Twitter. LLC Twitter has turned into a joke where they turned it into like a meme where it's like everything is like, oh, I'm gonna write this. But like I said, it's funny, but the comics are still broke. So don't because this happened to the Black Power movement. I talked about 19 Keys. There was a time and place where you had songs like what was the song with all of the rappers and they came together for in the early 90s? Self-destruction. You had Public Enemy, and then you saw a concerted effort by Hollywood to make a joke out of the pro-black person. So it was like in Living Color. Remember the dude with like the bean pie and all that? So it was like the pro-black person was like, come on, I ain't trying to hear that. Like it became a joke, but that's done intentionally. Because if they can criticize something to the point where it becomes a laughing stock, now it's no longer taken serious. Now it's no longer a threat. So you gotta be careful with these jokes because it's like we've seen this happen with the pro-black thing, and now it became like I don't want to hear that pro-black shit. Like and
then gangster rap came in at scale right after.
But that's not a joke though. So now it's like this LLC. Of course, there's people that go too far. Of course, there's people that don't know what they're talking about. But if you can criticize something and make it so to the point where it's just not taken serious at all, then nobody's going to care about business. They're not going to care about stocks. They're not going to care about. And then you could just go back to where you were and just be happy, just working a 9 to 5, giving somebody else your money, paying rent, and that's not threatening to the power structure. So you got to be careful with these jokes because who's starting it and the people that's promoting it are still in the same position that they were before.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny till it's not.
For real.
It's all funny games till it's not.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Drea and Lex from Poor Minds on Thursday at 6 o'clock. Shout out to them. Black women make up a large population when it comes to traveling in America.
For sure.
So this is a great episode. Highlight that. And then we got Blackout 10 o'clock. I got a feeling it's going to be a good Blackout episode.
For sure. Can't wait. Ooh, lots to talk about.
We're going to talk about him saying that white South Africans are genocide. Why would he say that? That's what I'm saying. Like, why would you say something like that? There's real genocides happening on the continent of Africa and other places in the world. There's real genocides happening. White people in South Africa are not being genocide, and they're colonizers anyway. They actually committed genocide not too long ago
in the same place.
Like, why would you say something like that? Like, he just makes it hard to defend him.
Yeah.
But we're gonna talk about it.
Stock Club call Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central. I got to give y'all credit for bringing up Ibrahim Touré. And to you podcasters who always have something to say, I'm not seeing y'all talk about that enough.
Don't worry. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's been real. Earnings this week. Retail space, Walmart on Thursday.
Love them.
That will be before opening. Alibaba too. Let's see what happened.
It'll be an uptick.
Yeah, let's see what happened in the Chinese e-commerce space when they report Thursday morning as well. So those are the two for the week. Check those out.
Get your tickets to InvestFest.
Please.
InvestFest.com.
Please.
And stay tuned with this China thing, man. Anything could happen.
Who knows? Who knows?
I have to do some investor journalism for myself. You never know. You never know.
Content
Love,
king.
love is love, y'all. Be good to each other. Happy birthday to our Taurus family out here. And
sure.
we'll see y'all Wednesday. Peace.
Peace.